So last month, my marketing agency did $710,000 in cash collected. We also have a team of 50 people. And in that last month, I've been completely traveling the world for pretty much the whole month, being a present father, being with my wife, pretty much not spending anything more than a couple of hours over the last month on my business, whilst it was able to grow, continually operate, and we were able to hit our best month ever. And in this video, I'm going to show you the spreadsheet and give you the template of how we operate this whole business. I'm going to run it down for you very simply. It's all in this spreadsheet. So you can take this, not waste the 8 years of lessons that I've learned in implementing this, and basically plug and play it straight into your marketing agency. So what is this here? This is our scorecard. Now, just to show you here, basically, we have a scorecard for every single department. Now, you might have one for your sales department. You might have one if you have a done for you offering for your done for you department. You might have one for your done with you department if you offer a done with you service. The first thing that you want to do is basically come in and create one of these scorecards for each department. You'll see we have department KPIs. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you want to split up your business into the different departments, and you then want to set 5 to 15 key performance indicators that basically show the lifeblood and health of your business. So, let's say you have a goal of hitting 100K a month. Well, then, revenue, and specifically a base target of 100K a month and a stretch target of 150K a month, could be the key performance indicators that you want to work towards. Profit is another key performance indicator. Churn percentage, the amount of reviews we receive every month, the amount of referrals we get, clients that are delinquent, ascension percentage of clients at or below CPA target, refund chargeback percentage. Okay, these are all key performance indicators which showcase to me the health of that department. Okay, so you want to go in, split your company up in departments. For most of you watching this, it will probably be your delivery department and your sales department. Okay, then you want to set 5 to 15 KPIs. It's key you don't go over this. If you do, you've got too many, you're not prioritizing the right KPIs. And if you've got too few, you want to make sure you're at least at 5 so you get a full overview of that department. Okay, what you also then want to do is set 3 to 7 rocks per department. Now, a rock is essentially taken from the book Traction and the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is the system we use in our agency, which is where most of this is coming from. But a rock is essentially a goal for the quarter. So key performance indicators are ongoing. They're constantly tracked. They're metrics that are always going to be tracked for your business. Okay. Department rocks are updated every single quarter. So essentially what you're tracking here is progress quarterly on this. I'm going to show, by the way, in a minute, I'm going to show you what on track, off track, how we structure this as part of one-to-ones and meetings and everything here in a second. So hold on with me through this. But yeah, department rocks. You want to set 3 to 7 per department per quarter. Now, really key, these department rocks, they need to be clearly achievable. So you can't just say improve churn or improve service quality. Like, what does that actually mean? It needs to be yes or no. So reduce churn by 25%, you either hit that or you don't. Hire 2 new A players, you either hit that or you don't. Rebuild an onboarding process, you either do that or you don't. Okay, so it needs to be clearly defined and clearly measurable. Okay, really key when you're setting rocks and KPIs. So that's your department. Now, the key thing here, your department head is going to be responsible for this. Now, put really clearly, I'm going to go through the structure in a minute about my company and exactly how I manage it. But essentially, for most of you watching this, you're either going to have a head of department running that, or this may even be you that's responsible for these metrics. Now, as a leader, you're genuinely going to be responsible. You're going to be able to handle more on your plate than perhaps a direct report, an individual contributor. Okay, so you're able to have these 5 to 15 KPIs that you're responsible for, or your department leader is responsible for, and the department rocks, you're able to have 3 to 7. Okay, the department head is responsible for these KPIs for those rocks. Okay, you as the leader set these. The person responsible, that the actual leader of the bit, as in like your department, sets their own rocks. So they set the rocks, you set the KPIs. Okay, and the same goes for individual contributors too. So we scroll down, we then also have, what makes up a department? Well, the team members make up a department. Okay, now this is really key to, it's basic, but it's key to understand. If you set, let's say you want to hit 10% churn. if every individual in your business, if you have 5 media buyers running ads for clients, all 5 of those media buyers hit below 10% churn, then as a department and as a company, you will hit sub 10% churn. Okay. So it's great to have the department overview, because ultimately that's when all said and done, that's what you hit at the end of the month. But you also want to track KPIs and rocks for every single individual within the team. So below this, we have each individual team member. Now, if this is for a media buyer, every media buyer is going to have the exact same KPI set for them. You want between 3 and 5 core KPIs set, with one of those being their one number. So for us, our media buyers, our delivery team, their one number is churn. They have 3 to 5 KPIs. Okay, every role does, and everyone has their one number that is their key number that they are responsible for. For media buyers, it is their churn percentage. So you see here, okay, we have churn percentage, NPS, reviews, client results, delinquency. By the way, these aren't the exact ones, just to show you some of the range of the KPIs you could use. You add these in here, okay? Now, remember, every media buyer is going to be then measured up against these. I'm going to show you how we measure that in one-to-ones and meetings, and actually use this sheet here in just a minute. So bear with. And then each individual contributor, each team member sets their own personal rocks. And again, it is just 1 to 3 rocks per quarter that they set. These are set by the manager or yourself as CEO. These are set by the actual team member themselves. Okay? With this in mind now, how do we actually use this sheet? So the key thing is, we've got all these KPIs here. What you want to then do is you want to have a weekly one-to-one with everyone in the team. So this is how it's structured in my company. I have a weekly one-to-one with my department heads. Okay. My department heads have weekly one-to-ones with their individual contributors. So my job as CEO is to keep my department heads accountable and responsible for the performance of the department and their department and personal rocks. And my head of departments keep their individual contributors and their team members responsible for the KPIs and for the personal rocks. So what happens here is it creates accountability throughout the whole company towards all of the key metrics that we want to hit as a company. Okay. So they sit down and they have one-to-ones. Key note here: if you're still somewhat of a small agency and you don't have a department head yet, then it could be that you are leading the team. And if so, I still highly recommend setting these department KPIs. But essentially, you want a one-to-one with yourself every week where you keep yourself accountable. As a CEO, you don't need someone to keep you accountable. You're self-motivated to get this place in the first place. So you just need to make sure you have a routine with yourself where you sit down and have a one-to-one with yourself to keep yourself accountable to these metrics. So what happens? You sit down in your one-to-one and you go through all of these. So you want to say, are we on track? Are we off track? Or are we on track stretch, meaning we've hit our stretch target? So you want to go in and set base targets and stretch targets for every single one of these KPIs. Yeah. So revenue, we want to hit 100 grand revenue in the month. Stretch might be 150. Profit might be 50K and 75K. Churn might be 10%. Reviews, we want 25 in the month. 35 being stretch, for example. You want to set these targets for all of these key performance indicators. And then every week when you have your one-to-one, you measure, are you on track stretch? Are you on track base? Or are you off track completely? Now, this is so important because imagine you've got the whole company now in this cadence, rowing together in the same direction towards all the important metrics. And it creates a level of accountability because let's say right now, okay, too many people I see are too reactive to their goals. They say they want to hit 100 grand a month. Okay. Well, yeah, let's keep it simple. 150 grand a month. Well, in an average 30-day month, that means you need to be making 5 grand every day. So if you're 10 days into the month, you should be at 50 grand revenue. Okay. So right here, if it's the 10th of the month and I'm in my one-to-one and I'm looking at this and our goal is 150K, well, are we at 50K? Because if we are, we're on track. Okay. If we're not and we're below that, we're off track. What this allows us to do is catch things early, course correct. Let's say we needed more meetings to get that revenue up. Then maybe we can run a promo, run an email, increase ad spend, upsell some clients. But we can proactively, every single week, make sure that we're not waiting until it's the end of the month to see that we haven't hit our goals. We're proactively pushing forward and pushing them by monitoring them on a more sort of a tighter time frame per se. Okay. So what you want to do very simply, Now, this takes a little bit of discipline, but when you sit down with your department head here, or sit down with yourself and go through this, you simply just want to go through. You don't want to talk about each and every single one. You just want to do revenue. Are we on track? Are we off track? Okay, we're on track. Profit, are we on track or off track? We're stretch. Churn, we're off track. Reviews, we're off track. You just want to go through this list. Same with the department rocks. We're on track, off track, and just simply set them to what they are. Then what you want to do, really important, is we use Asana for this. And if you want me to do a separate video to actually showcase my Asana structure, because we have the actual meeting agendas followed by the tasks, everything built out in Asana templates. I'm super happy to show you that if you want it. But what you want to then do is you basically want to open a section here, and it's called IDS notes. So IDS means identify, discuss, solve. So we've now identified the issues that we're facing. So AKA the areas that we're off track. So now we want to discuss and solve them. So let's say in the instance we've just did, churn was off track. So we'll put churn off track. Okay. Let's say reviews are off track. Reviews off track. Let's say revenue is off track. Okay. So you make a list, and then you spend the rest of the one-to-one discussing with the direct report what's going to happen to improve this. So let's say churn is off track. Okay. You want ideally as well, you want the person that you're managing ideally leading this. You don't want to be telling them what to do. You want them to be like, right, well, I'm going to, I need to improve my churn. So I'm going to do this, and this next week, or here are some ideas I have. And then you can bounce back and forth, but ultimately you want them owning it and them leading it. But what this does is you can then say, right, well, what are you going to do to get your churn back on track? And they might turn around and say, well, I've lost 2 clients this month already. I don't want to lose any more clients this month. And if I don't, I'll hit my target at the end of the month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to every single one of my customers that I have right now and send them a proactive, detailed action plan of what the next 2 weeks looks like. So then what you can do as the leader is set an action step, and you can say, create proactive plan and send to all clients. Okay. You can set that as an action step, whether you use Asana, Trello, whatever. Assign that a task with a date, okay? And it creates, you see how we look at we've caught the metric early. We see we're not on track to hit the target we've set. We're off track. That goes into IDS. You then discuss and create a solution around that. That solution then becomes an action step, which is clear and defined to the individual, which creates accountability with a date attached to it. And then all that you do is then next week, when you come to sit down and you have your one-to-one again, before you go through all of these statistics, before you go through and do the on-track, off-track, you simply go through the list of actions that were set last week. So, Steve, I saw you said this action, this action, this action. Give me an update. Oh, well, I've done that. I've not done that. Okay, that was really important. Why have you not done that? Do you need some more support for me? Like, what is it? Help me help you. What can we do to make sure that this gets done as a priority? It creates accountability. And sometimes you find just by having an action step in place, assigned with a date, and knowing, and the individual contributor knowing that next week when they sit down in the one-to-one, if they haven't done that thing, they're going to have to explain themselves to you. Any A player is going to absolutely smash it out the water. And you see now, if you do this, if I do this with my department heads do that with all of their team members. You can now see how last month my business was able to run itself without me spending pretty much any time on the company. We hit a record month. I had a team of 50 people. Everything ran smoothly. I didn't even get contacted by my managers. Okay. And it's because I know that we've set targets, we've set KPIs. Me as the CEO has set those KPIs, both base and stretch. I know that my managers are going to be keeping everyone in the team accountable, because if they're not hitting that, so like, let's say right now, I sit with my manager department wide and we're not at churn. Well, the most likely situation is if we've not hit churn, in most cases, it's probably an individual, 1 or 2 individuals within the team that's basically pulling that metric up. Okay. So they're basically not at KPI yet. So I can then keep my manager accountable to say, what are you doing about that? Like, are you coaching them, supporting them? Are you performance managing them? Are you getting rid of them? Are they good? Like, what's going on here to make sure that we can move towards KPI? So I'm creating accountability for my managers. My managers are responsible for the output of the team and are therefore keeping them accountable. And you see how this all feeds into itself. And if you do this every single week, okay, and you make sure as well. And the key thing here with the rocks is, remember, the rocks are set on an individual basis. You know, you're going to see all of your team progress because, like, let's say you have one of your media buyers sets a personal rock to learn TikTok ads. Well, they're getting the personal development they want. You're keeping them accountable to their personal development. You're also keeping them accountable to the KPI to make sure that they hit their KPI. So as a department, we hit that KPI. And if that happens across the board and everyone's accountable, then if they're off track, you create IDS notes, you create action steps. And if they continue to fall below KPI, you simply performance manage them. And if they can't continue to perform at that level after support, you replace them with somebody who can. And if you do that, you can ramp your whole business up to KPI. And now, rather than just setting a target of 100 grand a month, you've created the KPIs to ensure that that happens, but you've also fully removed yourself in the process. And if you right now are a manager, if you're doing 20, 30K a month right now and still heavily in operations, it could be time for you to look to pull somebody in and you basically follow the structure. If you do that, it's going to change your life. But if left wanting just a little bit more, maybe you have more questions, if you want more support, my personal support, if you want me to give you everything that I know to help you grow your agency, check out all of the links in the description. There's a few ways in which I can help you depending on where you're at. And I'd love to work with you on a more personal level. I'll see you in the next one.